Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So, Dandat Pranams to all the devotees. Thank you all for joining in for our study session this afternoon. Today is 29th of February. Today is a very, very, very auspicious day. So at least those of us who are in India may have just broken our fast after offering Pushpanjali to Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. It is the most auspicious occasion of appearance of Shri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who is the spiritual master of our His Divine Grace, Abhay Charanaravind Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. So His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Avirbhav Maha Mahotsava ki Jai. And today is also the Tirubhav Tithi of Shri Purushottam Das Thakur, who was the Gopa called oh God, from morning I mean telling so many times I forgot. Shruta, one second. Okay. And today is also the most auspicious Tirubhav Tithi of His Holiness Gaur Govinda Swami Maharaj. Right. So we all know in what circumstances Gaur Govinda Maharaj actually left his body and ended his pastimes. Right. Very wonderfully he was explaining Radha meets Krishna, like that he's explaining in the Vyasas, and he's sitting on the Vyasas and explaining this Kurukshetra Leela where Radha and Krishna meet after a long time. So Radha looks at Krishna, Krishna looks at Radharani. At that time he gets choked up and then he says Nama Karo. And in that way, within a couple of minutes, he left his body like that. Asota Krishna, right? So, yeah. So, Shri Purushottam Das Thakur in Krishna Leela was Toka Krishna, right? So, in this way, all of these acharyas, they are all wonderful shining examples of how we should render devotional service. So, on this auspicious occasion of their appearance and disappearance days, we observe fasting. We fasted till half a day, and then we honor Krishna Prasadam, we do Pushpanjali. By all of this, we try to get the mercy of the acharyas. It is only with the mercy of the acharyas that we can even advance in devotional service, or we get the strength to even practice devotional service. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Avirbhav Maha Mahotsava ki Jai. His Holiness Gaur Govinda Swami Maharaj Tirubhav Maha Mahotsava ki Jai. Shri Purushottam Das Thakur Tirubhav Maha Mahotsava ki Jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. So let's start with prayers. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yudapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Namo Vishnu Padhaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Vishnu Padhaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Niti Namine Shri Varshabhanavi Devi Daitaya Kripabdhaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Dhayine Prabhave Namaha Madhuryojjvala Premadya Shri Rupanuga Bhaktida Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Viruddha Pasiddhanta Dvantaharine Vanchakalpadrubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yatrapatamam Mande Shri Gurun Dinatarinam Paramanandamadavam Sri Krishna Chaitanyameshwaram Harihi Om Tat Sat. Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadaliye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. So we are on chapter number 3 of Bhagavad Gita. So we saw quickly the first chapter. Arjuna is speaking most of the verses. Arjuna is giving reasons why not to fight. Arjuna surrenders to Krishna in 2.7. After that, Krishna gives Gyan to Arjuna, what to do, what not to do. Sankhya Yoga, Karma Yoga, how to action in Krishna consciousness, and finally how to go back home, back to Godhead. So second chapter, Bhagavad Gita ends. But then we see how Arjuna is asking more questions regarding practical application of Bhagavad Gita. And that is where the third chapter begins, wherein Arjuna is asking, why do you want me to engage in this war? When you are saying intelligence is better than fruit to work, then why are you making me work for this kingdom, right? Typically, that's a question that Arjuna is asking Krishna, and Krishna is telling Arjuna that you cannot be without doing work at any point in time. Everybody has to work according to the qualities one has acquired. So to perform one's prescribed duty without being attached to the results and offering the results to Krishna, that is the best way of performing one's prescribed duties. By doing so, one can go back home, back to Godhead. Or even if one just performs one's prescribed duty, then also one gets a higher destination. So all those people who didn't realize that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but yet were fighting in the battle of Kurukshetra, they were also going to get heavenly planets because they are dying in the battlefield, performing their prescribed duty. And then Krishna talks about great kings like Janaka who also performed their duty while they are completely pure devotee of the Lord. That is not required for them to perform any prescribed duty. Yet the Lord says, kings like Janaka also perform their prescribed duty. I am the Supreme Lord. I don't have any duty to perform. Yet when I come as Krishna, yada yada hi dharmasya jnanir bhavati bharata, right? When I come to establish the principles of religion, and I also perform my duties, because if I don't perform my duties, people will follow me, just like the common people follow the leaders. People will follow me and not perform their duties. In case people do that, then what will happen? They'll become entangled in the bondage of fruit of actions. And then finally, Lord Krishna tells Arjuna, it is better to perform one's own duties, even though not perfectly performed, rather than perform somebody else's duties, right? For example, a Brahmana can live his life by begging, whereas a Kshatriya has to have a kingdom to rule and a certain number of people or living entities, right? Animals or whatever within their jurisdiction to protect. So it is essential for a person to perform his duties according to the varna or ashrama that one is situated in, not according to birth, but according to janma, not according to birth, not according to janma, but according to karma, or according to one's desires, like that. And then very interestingly, now Krishna goes to Arjuna asks a question saying, okay, Krishna, I don't want to do any sinful acts. I want to act in a proper way, but sometimes I feel impelled to commit sinful actions. Why is it? And then Krishna tells, the main cause for sinful actions is lust. Kama. It is lust only, Arjuna, which is born due to the mode of passion, which becomes either anger when the lust is not fulfilled, or when the lust is or the desire is fulfilled, it becomes greed. And then to what extent does a person get influenced by the mind to perform sinful actions? There are 3 levels of consciousness. That is what is described by Lord Shri Krishna, right? The best is fire covered by smoke, because little bit of blowing on the smoke, that fire is there inside, right? Very easy to actually remove the smoke, to have a look at the fire. Then a little lower than that is mirror covered by dust, because it's very difficult. If the mirror is fully covered with dust, one cannot see oneself, right? Even if one sees it, it seems like somebody is there. We cannot identify who's what. And finally, the worst level of consciousness is that of an embryo, which is covered by covered by the womb, wherein there is no consciousness at all. One does not know what to do, what not to do. Why is it I'm here? Nothing. And then Krishna tells Arjuna also some more inputs as to how to control this unconquerable enemy called lust. Right? So Krishna tells Arjuna that generally, when you want to find something, right, we need to first of all find out where it is, and then we try to like for example, if I were to just give an example here, like Krishna tells Arjuna, the senses, the mind, and the intelligence. Actually, we spoke about it yesterday, right? Like how, because the lust or the desire is befriending the senses, the mind, and the intelligence, what happens? Those which are supposed to, right? In Tamil, there is a saying, வேலியே பயிரை மேய்ந்தால் விளைவதெப்படி. That means those which are instituted to protect the crop, if they themselves actually they try to destroy the crop, then of course the crop will be destroyed, isn't it? So the senses, the mind, and the intelligence are the instruments by which the lust can be controlled. The senses can control lust by dovetailing all of the actions in the service of the Lord. The mind can prevent lust from entering by always focusing on the form of the Lord, by meditating on the Lord, by mantrayati iti mantra, right? By always chanting the Hare Krishna Maha mantra. The intelligence, by the study of the scriptures, the intelligence get purified, and in this way, the intelligence also can dissuade us from acting according to the lusty desires, right? But then if we don't control our senses, the mind, and the intelligence, then what do? The lust gets into that and it covers all of them, because of which the real knowledge is hidden from the living entity and it bewilders him, right? So that's how text number 40 ends. Let's now quickly go to text number 41. Okay, let me share my screen. Devotees can raise your hands, whoever wants to read. Okay, one second. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, what happened? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, oh God. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Okay, yeah. So, so in 40, what did we see? Let's quickly, yeah. And in 40 also, Prabhupada explains very beautifully, right? How do we ensure that our senses don't become repositories of lust? That is by engaging in hearing about the pastimes of the Lord. That's how we can convert lust into love. How can we convert anger into dovetail in the anger in the service of the Lord? That is by exhibiting our anger against those who are against Krishna consciousness or who blaspheme the devotees. Right? That is how we can dovetail our propensities of lust, anger, and greed in the service of the Lord. Like that. All right. Text number 41. Monimala Mataji, go ahead.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Am I audible, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji, go ahead. Dandavat Pranam. Yes, I think you got something done. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Very good. Mataji, please, Tasmat.
You want me to read the shloka?
Mataji, please.
Okay. Tasmat tvam indriyan yadav niyamya bharatarshabha papmanam prajahihyenam jnana vijnana nashanam. Yes, Mataji. Synonyms?
Tasmat, therefore, tam, you, indriyani, senses, adiu, in the beginning, niyama, by regulating, Bharata Shava, O chief amongst the descendants of Bharat, Papamannam, the great symbol of sin, Prajai, carb, he, certainly, Imam, this, Jnana, knowledge, Vijayana, scientific knowledge of the pure soul, Nashayam, destroyer.
Nashanam.
Destroyer. Purport done by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Therefore, O Arjuna, best of the Bharatas, in the very beginning, carved this great symbol of sin. last, by regulating the senses and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The Lord advised Arjuna to regulate the senses from the very beginning so that he could curb the greatest sinful enemy, lust, which destroys the urge for self-realization and specifically knowledge of the self. Jnanam refers to knowledge of self as distinguished from non-self, or in other words, knowledge that the spirit soul is not the body. Vijayanam refers to scientific knowledge of the spirit soul and knowledge of one's constitutional position and his relationship to the Supreme Soul. It is explained thus in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Jnanam Paramma Gunami Yat Vijayanam Sambhava Samanvitam
Sarahasyam Tat Angam
Cha Grihana
Gaditam
Gamaya. The knowledge of the self and the Supreme Self is very confidential and mysterious, being veiled by Maya. But such knowledge and specific realization can be understood if it is explained by the Lord Himself. Bhagavad Gita gives us that knowledge, specifically knowledge of the self. The living entities are part and parcels of the Lord, and therefore they are simply meant to be served the Lord. The consciousness is called Krishna consciousness. So from the very beginning of life, one has to learn this Krishna consciousness, and thereby one may become fully Krishna conscious and act accordingly. Last is only the perverted reflection of the love of God, which is natural for every living entity. But if one is educated in Krishna consciousness from the very beginning, that natural love of God cannot deteriorate into lust. When love of God deteriorates into lust, it is very difficult to return to the normal condition. Nonetheless, Krishna consciousness is so powerful that even a late beginner can become a lover of God by following the regulative principles of devotional service. So, from any stage of life or from the time of understanding its urgency, one can begin regulating the senses in Krishna consciousness, devotional service of the Lord, and turn the last into love of Godhead, the highest perfectional stage of human life. Haribol Mataji, Dandavat Pranam.
Thank you so much. So, Kaumaram Acharet Prajna, right? It is very easy to learn something correctly for the first time, right? But sometimes when we learn the wrong way, then what happens? You have to unlearn all the nonsense that we have learned thus far, and that takes a lot of time. Unlearning is even more difficult than learning something new, right? If you learn correctly the first time, right? If you've learned something wrongly, then first you have to unlearn that, and then we have to relearn the new thing with an open mind. It becomes very difficult, right? That is why Prahlad Maharaj says Kaumaram Acharet Prajna, right? The self-realization, the knowledge has to be acquired right from when one is young, right? One should not wait, right? People say that abhi kyun hai karna hai ye sab, all this Krishna consciousness, Bhagavan ke naam lena, ye sab na budhape mein kar sakte hain, right? Let's do it when we are old, when we are invalid, when we don't have anything to do, when we are not capable of doing anything else. That time we should do Krishna bhajan, right? That time we can't even do material things. We cannot see properly. We cannot hear properly. What we will do Krishna bhajan, right? Now we are able to do all those things, right? Typically we are able to read. We are able to see properly. We are able to walk. We are healthy. Even then we are not able to practice Krishna consciousness. And what to speak of when everything becomes almost invisible. That time only we will go and study, right? Then we have to have special kripa, like the Brahmana, right? You could not read Bhagavad Gita, but yet you could understand Bhagavad Gita. But to have that consciousness, to develop that consciousness, we need to have knowledge. For that we are supposed to read. And what will we read when we cannot even see properly, right? So that is why Prahlad Maharaj says we have to start the process of Krishna consciousness from right from a young age. That is why Krishna also tells in Bhagavad Gita, those who practice Krishna consciousness for a long period of time, but they don't perfect their lives, they get the opportunity to be born in a family of devotees where it becomes natural for them. When they see their parents chanting Hare Krishna, they automatically pick up the bead bag, they chant Hare Krishna mantra, they sing bhajans, they play musical instruments. It all becomes natural to them. In that way, the love for God, or because I've seen some devotee children actually having their own small deities, Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra, and then it is like they're loving reciprocation with those dolls kind of thing. But then there is loving reciprocation is there. The love is there automatically. So this natural love of God is what we want to develop in our heart, because currently it is invested in all the wrong things and all the wrong places and all the wrong people. That is why we are frustrated, because of the exercise of this love, which is lust actually, right? But then Prabhupada gives a very, very hope-giving statement here. Krishna consciousness is so powerful that even a late beginner can become a lover of God. How is it? Simply by following the regulative principles of devotional service, right? Sadhana bhakti. When one follows sadhana bhakti, then automatically one's propensities, lustful propensities, automatically get transformed into love, like that. So from any stage of life, one can begin regulating the senses in Krishna consciousness and devotional service, and then turn the lust into love of God. And when that happens, when lust gets converted into love of God, that is the perfection of the human form of life, like that. All right, so let's move forward. Text number 42. Sridhar Prabhu, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Dandot Pranam Mataji.
Dandot Pranam, yes.
Indriyani param yahu indriyebhyah param manah manastu para buddhir yo buddhe paratastu cha. Indriyani, senses, parani, superior, are said. Indriyebhyah, more than the senses. Param, superior. Mana, the mind. Manasha, more than the mind. Tu, also. Para, superior. Buddhir, intelligent. Ya, who? Buddhe, more than the intelligent. Parat, superior. Tu, but. Sa, he. Hare Krishna. Translation by Prabhupada. Translation. The working senses are superior to dull matter. Mind is higher than the senses. Intelligence is still higher than the mind. And he, the soul, is ever even higher than the intelligence. Purport. Hare Krishna. The senses are different outlet for activities of lust. Lust is reserved within the body, but it is given when through the senses. Therefore, the senses are superior to the body as a whole. The outlet are not in the use when there is a superior consciousness or Krishna consciousness. In Krishna consciousness, the soul make direct connection with the supreme personality of Godhead. Therefore, the hereditary of body functions as described here ultimately ends in the supreme soul. Bodily action means the function of senses, and stopping the senses means stopping all bodily action. But since the mind is active, then even though the body may be silent and at rest, the mind will act as it does during dreaming, but above the mind is the determination of the intelligence, and above the intelligence is the soul proper. If therefore the soul is directly engaged with the supreme, naturally all other subordinates, namely the intelligence, mind and senses, will be automatically engaged. In the Kada Upanishad, there is a similar passage in which it is said that object of sense gratification are superior to the senses, and mind is superior to the sense object. If therefore the mind is directly engaged in the service of Lord constantly, then there is no change that the sense will become engaged in other way. The mental attitude has already been explained. Param drishya param drishtva nivarate. If mind is engaged in the transcendental service of Lord, there is no change of being engaged in the lower propensities. In the Kada Upanishad, the soul has been described as Mahan, the great. Therefore, the soul is above all, namely the sense object, the senses, the mind, and the intelligence. Therefore, directly understanding the constitutional position of the soul is the solution of the whole problem. With intelligence, one has to seek out the constitutional position of the soul and then engage the mind always in Krishna consciousness. That solve the whole problem. A Neptune specialist spiritualist is generally advised to keep aloof from the object of the senses. But aside from that, one has to strengthen the mind by use of intelligence. If by intelligence one engages one's mind in Krishna consciousness by complete surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then automatically the mind becomes stronger. And even though the senses are very strong, like serpent, they will be no more effective than serpent with the broken fangs. But even though the soul is the master of intelligence and mind and the senses also, still, unless it is strengthened by association with Krishna in Krishna consciousness, there is very change of falling down due to the agitated mind. Hare Krishna, Dandot Pranam.
There is every chance. Thank you, Haribol. So there is every chance of falling down, right? We cannot, like they say, when you're swimming in the ocean, right? There is no point. There is no way of remaining stagnant. Either we are swimming and we are moving forward, or the current is pushing us backward, right? So in Krishna consciousness also, there is no level called stagnancy, right? Because if we don't perform devotional service, automatically we are deteriorating in our devotional service. But when we are continuously endeavoring to perform devotional service, we are all continuously advancing. So like that, as long as one does not engage one's mind in Krishna consciousness activities, and does not fill his mind with Krishna conscious activities throughout, right? But then what happens if one does not engage in higher things? The mind will think of lower things, right? If the mind does not have something to think about, right? Okay, what should I cook boga for the Lord? Okay, what chapter of Bhagavad Gita should I study today? Or Nityananda Trayadashi, what is coming up now? Gaur Purnima is coming up in the month of March. So, how should I decorate the deities? How should I prepare the dress for the deities? Like that, when our mind is continuously engaged in the service of the Lord, there is no scope for the mind to think of lower things, right? What dress should I buy for myself? What can I do? I'm having a lot of free time. Let me go and watch a movie. Okay, I've not spoken to this friend for a long time. Let me call and 2 hours ke liye, let me gossip, right? All those things will not figure out in the mind, isn't it? All those things figure out in the mind only when an idle mind is a devil's workshop, right? So all these ideas will come to our mind, which is totally idle, right? When we think that we have all the time in the world, what is the hurry, right? Let me do all that I like and have not done for the past so many months, or so many weeks, or so many days, or even, right? Or last week only we would have gossiped. Then we feel it's a long time. Let me go and pick up the phone and talk, and then 2 hours kaisa gaya pata nahi chalega, right? Whatever we did in the 2 hours, and we think, oh my God, 2 hours I spent on the phone, isn't it? So like that, so we have to ensure that we occupy our mind with the right things. Param drishtva nivartate. When we are engaged with the right things, then the mind, like the senses are very strong, but like serpents, they will not be, the serpents with broken fangs, they will not be able to cause any damage, provided the mind is controlling the senses and engaging the senses in what should be done, what should not be done. And the mind is not independent also. The mind should be engaged by the intelligence, and the intelligence has to be guided by the study of the scriptures. So by the study of the scriptures, there is discrimination, what to do, what not to do, how to best utilize time, how not to utilize time. And in that way, the intelligence engages the mind, and the mind engages the senses. There are beautiful example given by Prabhupada about the chariot, isn't it? The 5 horses are the 5 senses. The reins, which is which is used by the driver, that is actually representing the mind, and the driver himself is the intelligence, and the passenger actually represents the soul. So basically, the soul has to direct. When you enter the chariot, right, the driver cannot take us anywhere wherever he wants, right? Most of the auto wallahs tell us that, right? I want to go here, my home is here. If you want to go there, you come, right? I will say, okay, you go your way, right? I will find an auto which will go to my home, right? So the soul has to determine its destination, whether it wants to go back home, back to Godhead, or it wants to get itself entangled here. And based on the desire of the soul, right? As a soul, we can only desire. If I want to go back to Godhead, then I will engage my intelligence in study of scriptures to understand what is the way to go back home, back to Godhead. Then I will engage the mind, manasa deho geho jo kichumor arpilo tuapade Nanda Kishore. Engage in the service of Nanda Kishore. And then what happens? The senses also are engaged in the service of the Lord. Then the senses become like a serpent's broken fangs. because there is no poison, there is no unnecessary lust that is going to carry away the mind, just like Prabhupada, no, Krishna only tells, right? Just in a windless place, there can be complete focus where the lamp glows very nicely, but where there's a turbulent wind which represents the lusty desires, then the lamp of devotional service cannot continue to glow, because it will get extinguished by the incessant flow of desires. Yeah. Okay, let's move forward. Okay, text number 43. Sudha Mataji, go ahead. Evam buddhe param buddhva. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam. Yes, Mataji.
Evam buddhe param buddhva samstabhyatmanam atmana jahi shatrum mahabaho kama rupam durasadam. Synonyms: evam, thus, buddhe, two intelligence, param, superior, buddhva, knowing, samstabhya, by steady, atmanam, the mind, atmana, by deliberate intelligence, jahi, conquer, shatrum, the enemy, mahabaho, O mighty armed one, kamarupam, in the form of lust, durasadam, formidable. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Thus, knowing oneself to be transcendental to the material senses, mind, and intelligence, O mighty Arjuna, one should study the mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence, Krishna consciousness, and thus by spiritual strength conquer this insatiable enemy known as lust. Purport. This third chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is conclusively directed to Krishna consciousness by knowing oneself as the eternal servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, without considering impersonal voidness the ultimate end. In the material existence of life, one is certainly influenced by propensities for lust and desire, for dominating the resources of material nature. Desire for overlording and for sense gratification is the greatest enemy of the conditioned soul. But by the strength of Krishna consciousness, one can control the material senses, the mind, and the intelligence. One may not give up work and prescribed duties all of a sudden, but by gradually developing Krishna consciousness, one can be situated in a transcendental position without being influenced by the material senses and the mind, by steady intelligence directed towards one's pure identity. This is the sum total of this chapter. In the immature stage of material existence, philosophical speculations and artificial attempts to control the senses by the so-called practice of yogic postures can never help a man towards spiritual life. He must be trained in Krishna consciousness by higher intelligence. Thus ends the Bhakti Vedanta purpose to the third chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of Karma Yoga, or the discharge of one's prescribed duty in Krishna consciousness. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Right? So we discussed this in detail, actually, how the intelligence has to direct the mind has to direct the senses, and then the senses engages in the service of the Lord, so that there is no avenue for lusty desire to creep in. Right? And of course, if we at all get into that kind of situation, then association of devotees, because material nature or Maya is very, very tricky. Sometimes, it comes in the form of devotional service only. And then we become so attached to the service that we perform the same service. What is supposed to be done for the service of the Lord, we perform the same service, but with the desire to acquire name, fame, glory, with the desire to acquire applaud from others, etc., etc. So the consciousness by which we are performing devotional service, which is to serve the Lord, Jivera Swarupaye Krishnera Nitya Das, that service attitude is lost, and there becomes an attitude to trying to control things, to trying to get people to work the way we want, etc., etc. So even within devotional service, there is scope for our consciousness to get lost. So that is why Prabhupada is saying one must be trained in Krishna consciousness by higher intelligence. And how does one get this higher intelligence? In the association of those devotees who have actually practiced Krishna consciousness in all these circumstances. They have known how to practice Krishna consciousness in all these circumstances, and they will be able to guide us what we should do under certain circumstances. That is why there is a lot of importance given to Siksha Gurus. There is a lot of importance given to mentors whom we can directly approach in case we don't know what to do. In this particular situation, I don't know what to do, right? Just like Krishna gave instructions to Arjuna. Simply by following Krishna's instructions, Arjuna got the perfection of life, right? Similarly, whatever instruction we are getting from a bona fide guru, coming in a bona fide guru parampara, right? That knowledge, with which if we work using that particular knowledge, then our life also will become perfect, right? So in the next chapter, Krishna is going to further elaborate about what is this transcendental knowledge, right? Whom should such transcendental knowledge be received from? What should be the attitude of a person to receive such transcendental knowledge? So all of, from whom, by whom, who can receive the transcendental knowledge, all of that will be explained in this particular chapter. Very, very important chapter, which is entitled Transcendental Knowledge. So let's start chapter number 4 of Bhagavad Gita, entitled Transcendental Knowledge. Okay, Snehal Mataji, go ahead. Shri Bhagavan Vacha.
Yes, Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Imam Vivasvate Yogam Proktavan Aham Avyayam Vivasvan Manave Praha Manur Ishva Kave Abravit. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Imam, this, Vivasvate, unto the Sun God, Yogam, the science of one's relationship to the Supreme, Proktavan, instructed, Aham, I, Avyayam, imperishable, Vivasvan, the Sun God's name, Manave, unto the Father of mankind, of the name Vivasvat, Praha, told, Manuha, the Father of mankind, Ishvakave, unto the king Ishvaku, Abravit, said. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The translation, the personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna said, I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the sun god Vivasvan, and Vivasvan instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind, and Manu in turn instructed it to Ishvaku. Purport. Herein we find the history of Bhagavad Gita traced from a remote time when it was delivered to the royal order of all planets, beginning from the sun planet. The king of all planets are specially meant for the protection of the inhabitants, and therefore the royal order should understand the science of a Bhagavad Gita in order to be able to rule the citizens and protect them from material bondage to lust. Human life is meant for cultivation of a spiritual knowledge in eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the executive heads of all the states and all planets are obliged to impart this lesson to the citizens by education, culture, and devotion. In other words, the executive heads of all states are intended to spread the science of Krishna consciousness so that the people may take advantage of this great science and pursue a successful path utilizing the opportunity of the human form of life. In this millennium, the sun god is known as Vivasvan, the king of the sun, which is the origin of all planets within the solar system. In the Brahma Samhita 5.52, it is stated, Yaschak Shuresha Savita Sakala
Raja
Rajas
Suramurtirasheshateja यस्याज्ञया भ्रमति संवृतकालचक्रो गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि.
यश्चक्षुरेश सविता सकलग्रहाणां राजा समस्तसुरमूर्तिरशेषतेजः यस्याज्ञाय भ्रमति चक्रो गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि. Let me worship, Lord Brahma said, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Govinda, Krishna, who is the original person and under whose order the sun, which is the king of all planets, is assuming immense power and heat. The sun represents the eye of the Lord and traverses its orbits in obedience and to his order. The sun is the king of planets, and the sun god, at present of the name Vivasvan, rules the sun planet, which is controlling all other planets by supplying heat and light. He is rotating under the order of Krishna, and Lord Krishna originally made Vivasvan his first disciple to understand the science of Bhagavad Gita. The Gita is not therefore a
speculative treatise for the insignificant mundane scholar, but is a standard book of knowledge coming down from the time immemorial. In
Hare Krishna.
Mahabharata,
Thank you, Mataji.
yes,
Very good. So here, Prabhupada is actually, the verse itself talks about Imam Vivasvate Yogam Proktavan Aham Abhyayam, right? Where Krishna himself tells that I spoke this science of Bhagavad Gita to the sun god. So this verse starts off with the importance of hearing in a bona fide Guru Parampara, right? The whole bona fide paramparas start from Lord Sri Krishna, right? To understand that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, that is the most essential fundamental truth. Now, for which there has to be faith. Only then our next step can follow. Right? If you don't have that fundamental thing in place, then all of the entire building will collapse, right? Because the foundation is not strong. Right? So first we need to invest our faith in what Krishna is speaking in Bhagavad Gita, like we read in the introduction. It's not just a conversation between two friends. That if one can take up, if I take up whatever one likes and give up whatever one does not like. No, it's a conversation between the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his disciple. And what is the mood and what is the consciousness in which Arjuna is actually asking questions, following the instructions of Lord Sri Krishna, continues to ask questions as much as until the time he is actually convinced to completely listen to the orders of the spiritual master. So it is with that kind of faith and submissiveness that one has to actually understand this transcendental knowledge. Otherwise, the transcendental knowledge will not get revealed in our heart, right? It will just be on our head. We hear something, it will go out of the ear, or it will not become vijnana, it will not become a knowledge that can be applied in our life. So very importantly here, Krishna and Prabhupada especially is making a point of how a disciple has to understand the science of Bhagavad Gita through a proper spiritual master coming in a bona fide parampara and with obedience to the order of the spiritual master, like that. All right. So there are more references given here, which we will read now. Mahabharat. Sindhu Mataji, go ahead. In the Mahabharat Shanti Parva.
Hare Krishna, Pranam Mataji.
Pranam Mataji.
In the purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai. In the Mahabharata Shanti Parva 348, 51, 52, we can trace out the history of the Gita as follows. Treta Yugadav Chatato Vivashvan Manavedadav Manushaloka Vritiyartam Sita Ekva Kavedadav Vishwa Punat Katito Vyapya Lokanavaktitaha. In the beginning of the millennium, known as Treta Yuga, the science of relationship with the Supreme was delivered by Vivashvan to Manu. Manu, being the father of mankind, gave it to his son Maharaja Ikshvaku, the king of this earth planet and the forefather of the Raghu dynasty, in which Lord Ramachandra appeared. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita existed in human society from the time of Maharaja Ikshvaku. At the present moment, we have just passed through the 5,000 years of the Kali Yuga, which lasts 432,000 years. Before this, there was Dwapar Yuga, 8 lakh years. And before that, there was Treta Yuga, 12 lakhs years. Thus, some 2 million years ago, Manu spoke the Bhagavad Gita to his disciple and son Maharaja Ikshvaku, the king of this planet Earth. The age of the current Manu is calculated to some 305 million years. 120.
Mataji, your voice is breaking, Mataji.
Yeah. Hare Krishna.
We are not able to hear you clearly. Your voice is breaking.
Okay, now Mataji?
Yeah, now it's okay. Accepting that?
Accepting that before the birth of Manu, the Gita was spoken by the Lord to his disciple, the sun god Vivashvan. A rough estimate is that the Gita was spoken at least 120 crores, 4 lakhs years ago, And in human society, it has been extant for 2 million years. It was re-spoken by the Lord again to Arjuna about 5,000 years ago. That is the rough estimate of the history of the Gita, according to the Gita itself and according to the version of the speaker, Lord Sri Krishna. It was spoken to the sun god Vivaswan because he is also a Kshatriya and is the father of all Kshatriyas who are descendants of the sun god or the Surya Vamsha Kshatriyas. Because Bhagavad Gita is as good as the Vedas, being spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this knowledge is apaurushaya, superhuman. Since the Vedic instructions are accepted as they are without human interpretation, the Gita must therefore be accepted without mundane interpretation. The mundane wranglers may speculate on the Gita in their own ways, but that is not Bhagavad Gita as it is. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita has to be accepted as it is from the disciplic succession. And it is described herein that the Lord spoke to the sun god spoke to his son Manu, and Manu spoke to son Ikshvaku. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Okay, so here 2 points are specified by Prabhupada. One is the importance of disciplic succession. How to hear from a bona fide disciplic succession is the right way to understand Bhagavad Gita as it is. Secondly, why do we have to accept Bhagavad Gita as it is? Because it is spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. Right? Because the Supreme Personality of Godhead has spoken it himself, it is called apaurushaya. That means it's beyond the 4 material defects of human beings, right? What are the 4 defects? The tendency to cheat, the tendency to commit mistakes, the tendency to be put into illusion, and having imperfect senses. These are the 4 defects of human beings, right? Because of which we can whatever we say need not always necessarily be the absolute truth. Right? Sometimes we speak lies. Sometimes we speak something just for our own personal ambitions to get fulfilled. Whatever else we do, right? But the Lord is above everything. Lord is above the 3 modes of material nature. The Lord is the creator, the maintainer, and the annihilator of everything. So He's beyond the 3 modes, and therefore the Lord's senses are perfect. The Lord is not subject to the 4 defects. Hence, the knowledge that the Lord is directly giving is called apaurushaya. Similarly, the knowledge that is transmitted as it is through the disciplic succession, even though those are living entities who are passing down this knowledge, but because of their surrender and because of the blessings of their spiritual masters, the knowledge that is flowing down through this disciplic succession is also apaurushaya, provided it does not get added, multiplied, subtracted, divided by the mental speculation of the people who are transmitting this knowledge, who are like the intermediaries, right? Sometimes they play this Chinese whisper, right? One person speaks to another person something, and then they keep passing out information, and after 10 people, the 11th person, when he says something, it is totally different from what the first person told, right? Because each person in between, they add their own stuff inside it, and that's how it goes, right? So the transcendental knowledge cannot be transmitted like Chinese whisper, right? The transcendental knowledge has to be transmitted as it is, right? One can, of course, give more examples. One can give, more contextual references, etc., for the audience to understand. But one has to be very clear that the principle, as given by Lord Sri Krishna, is maintained. Right? What Krishna gave to Vivaswan, the sun god, Vivaswan gave to Manu, Manu gave to Ikshvaku. So, imam Vivasvati yogam proktavan aham avyayam. Vivaswan manave praha manur Ikshvaku manur Ikshvakave bravit. Manu gave it to Ikshvaku. So in this way, the disciplic succession, the knowledge was getting transmitted. But due to course of time, what happened? This knowledge got lost. Right? When the knowledge gets lost, then what happens? The Lord appears. Right? When the Lord appears, and again starts another bona fide disciplic succession through Arjuna. So in this way, the disciplic succession continues. Right? Unless the knowledge is received through disciplic succession, nobody will be able to understand the Bhagavad Gita as it is. Right? That's what is the essence of the next verse also. Right? What is the importance of hearing in a disciplic succession? Manasi Mataji, go ahead. Evam parampara praptam. We'll end with this verse. Yeah. Mataji, you need to unmute yourself. Have you?
Hare Krishna. Yes,
Hare
thank
Krishna,
you. Evam parampara praptam emam rajarsayo vidhu sakalena mahata yogo nashta param tapa. Evam, thus, parampara, by disciplic succession, praptam, received. Imam, this science. Raja, Saya, the saintly kings. Viduha, understood. Sir, that knowledge. Kalena, in the course of time. Iha, in this world. Mahata, great. Yoga, the science of one's relationship with the Supreme. Nashtaha, scattered. Parantapa, O Arjun, subduer of the enemies. Translation by Prabhupada Jai Shri Prabhupada. This supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. But in course of time, the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it is appears to be lost. Purport by Shri Prabhupada Jai Shri Prabhupada. It is clearly stated that the Gita was especially meant for the saintly kings because they were to execute its purpose in ruling over the citizens. Certainly, Bhagavad Gita was never meant for demonic persons who would dissipate its value for no one's benefit and would devise all types of interpretations according to personal whims. As soon as the original purpose was scattered by the motives of the unscrupulous commentators, there arose the need to re-establish a disciplic succession. 5,000 years ago, it was detected by the Lord himself that the disciplic succession was broken, and therefore he declared that the purpose of the Gita appeared to be lost. In the same way, at the present moment also, there are so many editions of the Gita, especially in English, but almost all of them are not according to authorized disciplic succession. There are innumerable interpretations rendered by different mundane scholars, but almost all of them do not accept the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, although they make a good business of the words of Sri Krishna. This spirit is demonic because demons do not believe in God but simply enjoy the property of the Supreme. Since there is a great need of an edition of the Gita in English, as it is received by the Parampara disciplic succession system, an attempt is made herewith to fulfill this great want. Bhagavad Gita, accepted as it is a great boon to humanity, but it is accepted as a treatise of philosophical speculations. It is simply a waste of time. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. So, as we are studying Bhagavad Gita, as we are trying to understand Bhagavad Gita, we should keep in mind that we don't add our own mental speculations in terms of understanding Bhagavad Gita. Right? Prabhupada gives an example in one of his lectures how Krishna says, Sarvadharman Parityaja, Mam Ekam Sharanam Braja. Mam Ekam Sharanam Braja means just surrender unto me. But Prabhupada says the people misunderstand that surrender unto the unborn within Krishna. Right? In that way, people try to complicate by simply going through those words and establishing their own interpretations of what Krishna would have told. Right? So when somebody does such mental speculation, then one arrives at whatever one wants to arrive at. Ultimately, it is whatever one wants to understand. Right? Whatever generally we also do that. Right? Whatever we like to do, that is what we try to understand. And then we try to get a yes from our superiors, right? And this is what is the conclusion, and this is what I want to do, and then we simply want to get them to say a yes. But that should not be the attitude of a disciple. A disciple should be open to understand what is the actual message of Bhagavad Gita that is given by Lord Sri Krishna. Understand it in the way the speaker or the Lord Sri Krishna himself is intending us to follow it, and follow it according to the instructions of the Lord, which has been passed down through the Guru Parampara, right, of Diksha and Siksha Gurus. In that way, that is the way to understand the Bhagavad Gita. Right? So next couple of verses will be very interesting. Why Krishna is saying, why have I chosen you? I could have chosen anybody to give this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. So why have I chosen you? Why? Because Arjuna, you are not envious. And Arjuna, you are my dear friend. So in this way, I am going to explain myself to you. So, Naham Prakasha Sarvasya Yoga Maya Samavrata. Krishna also tells in Bhagavad Gita, I am never known by people who are envious of me, by people who follow, their own path of sense gratification or their own path of mental speculation. Then my Yoga Maya, the Yoga Maya curtain actually covers my actual self to those kind of people. That is why we need to have the right attitude to understand God. And in this way, the Lord will lead us to the right gurus. Brahmade Brahmite Kona, Bhagyavan Jiva, Guru Krishna Prasadi Paya Bhakti Lita Bija. Right? It's only by the mercy of the Lord that we come in contact with the Guru, or we come in contact with the association of devotees. Right? As we have the desire So the Lord will reward us accordingly, right? So we'll start with verse number 3 tomorrow. Let's go on to nectar of instruction. We are on verse number 5. So we were talking about how important this verse is, right? Krishneti yasya giritam manasendriyat. So whom do we have to offer obeisances in the mind? Whom do we have to offer proper obeisances, right? And what is the attitude of a devotee, right? One should be able to properly discriminate between a Kanishta Adhikari, a Madhyama Adhikari, and Uttama Adhikari, especially if one is a Madhyama Adhikari and he wants to preach the message of Krishna consciousness. Then one has to have those 4 qualifications, where one worships the Supreme Lord, one is friendly with the devotees, one is compassionate to the innocent people, and one avoids the envious people. In this way, what one does, one is able to have proper interaction with all kinds of people, trying to avoid the envious, and in this way helping those who are in need of the transcendental knowledge, right? So, and then what else did we see? We saw, so somehow or the other, the Shraddha Anusari, right? We saw that how the distinction between Kanishta, Madhyama, and Uttama Adhikari is Shraddha Anusari, according to the faith that one has, right? If one has complete faith in the instructions of the Vedic scriptures, one knows how to interact with the devotees as is given in the Vedic scriptures, right? Aradhanam api sarvesham Vishnor aradhanam param tasmat paratram devi tadiyanam samarchanam. Right? The best form of worship is the worship of Lord Vishnu. But even better than worshipping Lord Vishnu is worshipping the paraphernalia, tadiyanam, the servants of the Lord, the paraphernalia of the Lord, the associates of the Lord. They are also to be regarded with as much respect as that of the Lord. And to serve the associates of the Lord, the paraphernalia of the Lord, pleases the Lord more than directly even worshipping the Lord. Right? In this connection, there is a very beautiful story that comes to my mind of Kanchi Purna. Right? This Kanchi Purna actually served Varadaraj Perumal directly. He used to fan the Lord, he used to talk to the Lord, and in this way, he had this direct interaction with the Lord. And then Ramanujacharya once asked Kanchi Purna to ask, Varadaraj Perumal. Varadaraja Perumal means, Varada means one who gives boons. Raja means the king, right? The king of all boons, one who can fulfill all our desires by giving us boons. That Lord is called Varada Raja. Perumal means the Supreme Lord, right? The Supreme Lord who is the giver of boons, right? So in this way, Ramanujacharya asked Kanchi Purna to ask some questions to Varadaraj Perumal, right? And then, as he gave the answers, we'll not go into that. That in itself is a long subject matter. But Kanchi Purna, as he was asking, and then Varadaraj Perumal was answering those questions, and Kanchi Purna also wanted to ask Varadaraj Perumal, when will I come back to you? Right? Because he had just mentioned that one person, he will come back to me at the end of this lifetime. And then Kanchi Purna wanted to ask Varadaraj Perumal, when will I come back? Will I also come back to you in this lifetime? And then Varadaraj Perumal saying, no, only those who serve my devotees, they only get the first preference to come back to me. And then Kanchi Purna is baffled. Oh my Lord, I am serving you so many years. Will I not come back to you? He said, no, you have to engage in the service of my devotees. And then Kanchi Purna immediately leaves the service of the Lord. He goes in search of that devotee whom I should serve. But he's not at all engaged, because all of them know that he is a great devotee of the Lord. He is directly talking to the Lord, right? And who will engage such a person in their service, right? He was not getting any service opportunity. And then he went in disguise. He disguised himself, and somehow or the other he engaged in the service of a devotee. And in that way he pleased the Lord. So even better than serving the Lord directly is to engage in the service of those devotees who engage in the service of the Lord. Doesn't mean, of course, when we get an opportunity to serve the deities directly, we say, no. I will only serve the devotees. I will not serve the Lord. That's not the point, right? So the point is, as much regard and love and devotion that we have when we serve the Lord, as much, or if not even more, we should have that much dedication, devotion, and love when we serve even the servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or the paraphernalia of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? And then Kanishta, Madhyama, and Uttama are according to Shraddha, right? One who has complete faith is an Uttama Adhikari, and he sees everybody else as pure devotees. I myself, I'm not such a pure devotee. Everybody else is such a devotee. Madhyama Adhikari has clear discrimination abilities, right? He acts according to those 4 parameters that we discussed. Kanishta Adhikari, he has faith, of course. He knows that the Lord is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. right? And then he offers obeisances to the Lord, he performs arati to the Lord, but he does not have faith in actually understanding that how the association with devotees will help him enable or improve his relationship with the Lord. That is a Kanishta Adhikari. But very interestingly, all of them are called Adhikari. Adhikari means one has the right. What is the right that one has? The right is to perform devotional service. Right? When one has the understanding that Krishna is the Lord and I am a part and parcel of the Lord. Mamevamso Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. I am a part and parcel of the Lord and I want to engage in the Lord's service. Then automatically we become Adhikaris. Right? Adhikari means what? Because of our knowledge and our desire to serve the Lord is giving us the right to serve him. We cannot serve the Lord just because we want to do it. But the Lord, when he sees our desire, the Lord will empower us to get opportunities to render service. That is why to get opportunities to do seva, that is the greatest benediction, right? Seva in itself is the greatest benediction. The opportunity to get seva itself is the greatest benediction. Whatever seva it may be, right from maintaining the chapel stand for a festival, the devotees who are engaged in in ensuring that everybody's slippers are properly kept and they are returned back to the the owners at the end of the festival, right from them to even performing direct deity worship, like performing the arati of the Lord or cooking for the Lord. There is no distinction. The Lord does not make any distinction about what is the seva you are doing. The Lord makes a distinction according to the consciousness in which we are performing the seva. If you are proud that I am worshipping the deities directly, then it's rather better that we perform chapel seva, where we are humbled and we are grounded that I am doing some menial seva for the pleasure of the Lord. Right? Nobody will recognize us. That is perfectly okay because the Lord will recognize us. Right? And we need not please everybody. Somebody will remember, oh, you dressed the deities very beautifully today. After 2 days, nobody remembers our dress. Nobody remembers who made that dress, right? But because we are all subject to forgetfulness. But when the Lord sees what is the attitude in which a person performs devotional service, the Lord will remember eternally and forever. Right? The windmills of God grind slow but sure. Right? There can be no mistakes in the Lord's determination of what devotional service a person has performed. So we know Krishna is there in our heart as Paramatma. Krishna is there situated in Goloka Vrindavan, and Krishna is also there in the altar. Krishna is also there in every temple. Krishna is there in our home in the Archa Vigraha form. So we need not show ourselves what service we are doing to anybody and everybody. Right? Krishna will know, and Krishna will give us award us opportunities to do devotional service, and that is the attitude of a devotee. Okay, let's move forward now. Okay, while giving instructions to Sanatana Goswami, okay, Mansi Mataji. Okay, Karpagavali Mataji, I think you have not read. Go ahead.
Yes, Mataji. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Yes.
A person who is conclusive, that Mataji.
No. While giving instructions to Sanatana Goswami.
While giving instructions to Sanatana Goswami, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu divided devotional service into 3 categories. Sastra-yukti nahi jnani dhrita shraddhavan madhyama
Shastra-yukta nahi jane dhrida shraddhavana madhyama adhikari mahabhagyavana.
Madhyamam adhikari sehi mahabhagyavan. A person whose conclusive knowledge is of the Sastras is not very strong, but who has developed firm faith in chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and who is also under in the execution of his prescribed devotional service should be considered a Madhyama Adhikari. Such a person is very fortunate. See Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 22.67. A Madhyama Adhikari is a Shraddhavan, a staunchly faithful person, and he is actually a candidate for further advancement in devotional service. Therefore, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 22.64, it is said, Shraddhavan jana dhaya bhakti adhikari uttama madhyama kanishta shraddha anusari. One becomes qualified as a devotee on the elementary platform, the intermediate platform, and the highest platform of devotional service according to the development of his faith. Again, in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 22.62, it is said, Shraddha Sabde Viswasa Kahi Shruta Nishchaya Krishna Bhakti Kaile Sharva Karma Kuttahaya. By rendering transcendental service to Krishna, one automatically performs all subsidiary activities. This confident, firm faith favorable to the discharge of devotional service is called Shraddha. Shraddha, faith in Krishna, is the beginning of Krishna consciousness. Faith means strong faith. In the words of Bhagavad Gita are authoritative instructions for faithful men, and whatever Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita is to be accepted as it is without interpretation. This is the way Arjuna accepted Bhagavad Gita. After hearing Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna told Krishna, Sarvam idam ratam manye nyan adasi kesava. Oh Krishna, I totally accept as truth all you have told me. Bhagavad Gita.
Okay, thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji.
So, if Shraddha Anusari means according to the faith that a person has, one's level of advancement in devotional service is determined. Vishwasa kahe Shudrada Nischaya, right? The extent to which one is determined to perform devotional service depends to the extent of faith a person has. The stronger the faith, the more the determination to perform devotional service in all circumstances. Otherwise, we'll be fair weather devotees, right? Everything is going well. Okay, now let me also do, I have time, let me do devotional service. But a person who has so much of faith that whatever happens by the will of the Lord, and it is happening for my purification, even in the worst of situations, even when the situations are terribly going wrong, even then he knows the importance of having got the opportunity to do devotional service, and he will exercise or perform that devotional service, because that is what is given by Krishna to Arjuna, right? Whatever you have told me, I will accept it as truth. That's what Arjuna told. And what did Krishna tell Arjuna? Right? Manmana bhava mad bhakto mad yaji mam namaskuru. Right? Become my devotee, offer your obeisances unto me, worship me, right? Always remember me, become my devotee, right? That is what we have to always do in all circumstances, right? In that way, we will please Krishna. And that is the correct understanding of Bhagavad Gita, right? Let's move forward. Okay, Deval Mataji, go ahead. Is the screen visible? One second. The screen is, okay. Yes, Deval Mataji, go ahead.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Mataji, Dhanvat Pranam.
Thanks.
This is the correct way of understanding Bhagavad Gita, and it is called Shraddha. It is not that one accepts a portion of Bhagavad Gita according to his own whimsical interpretations and then rejects another portion. This is not Shraddha. Shraddha means accepting the instructions of Bhagavad Gita in their totality, especially the last instruction, Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mam Ekam Sharanam Vraja. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. Bhagavad Gita 18.66. When one becomes completely faithful in regard to this instruction, one's strong faith becomes the basis for advancing in spiritual life.
Oops,
When one,
sorry.
yes.
Yeah, when one fully engages.
When one fully engages in chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, he gradually realizes his own spiritual identity. Unless one faithfully chants the Hare Krishna mantra, Krishna does not reveal himself. Sevan mukhehi jivado swayam eva spurutai adaha. This is Bhakti Rasa Amrita Sindhu, first canto, second chapter, 234th verse. We cannot realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead by any artificial means. We must engage faithfully in the service of the Lord. Such service begins with the tongue, Sevan mukhehi jivado, which means that we should always chant the holy names of the Lord and accept Krishna Prasada. We should not chant or accept anything else. When this process is faithfully followed, the Supreme Lord reveals himself to the devotee. Should I continue, Mataji?
No, Mataji. Okay. So here, very important is not only is our endeavor important, but also the mercy of the Lord is very, very important. Right? Sevon mukhehi jivada swayam eva surati adaha. That means swayam eva means the Lord automatically reveals himself to such a person who continues to engage in devotional service in all circumstances. Right? Otherwise, those who simply are fair weather devotees, right? To that, their advancement also happens to that extent only. Whenever we render devotional service, we do get an opportunity for more devotional service. What is advancement? Advancement is nothing but an opportunity to perform more devotional service, right? There is no other desire for a bhakta other than perform devotional service for the pleasure of the Lord. So the more devotional service opportunities we get, that means we should understand that it is the mercy of the Lord. And that is how the Lord reveals himself to us. Okay, let's move forward. Okay, Rohini Mataji, go ahead. When a person realizes himself,
when a person realizes himself to be an eternal servitor of Krishna, he loses interest in everything but Krishna's service. Always thinking of Krishna, devising means by which to spread the holy name of Krishna, he understands that his only business is in spreading the Krishna consciousness movement all over the world. Such a person is to be recognized as an Uttam Adhikari, and his association should be immediately accepted according to the 6 processes, Dadati, Pratigranati, etc. Indeed, the advanced Uttam Adhikari Vaishnava devotee should be accepted as a spiritual master. Everything one possesses should be offered to him, for it is enjoined that one should deliver whatever he has to the spiritual master. The brahmachari in particular is supposed to beg alms from others and offer them to the spiritual master. However, one should not imitate the behavior of an advanced devotee or Mahabhagavata without being self-realized, for by such imitation one will eventually become degraded. In this verse, Srila Rupa Goswami advises the devotee to be intelligent enough to distinguish between the Kanishta Adhikari, Madhyama Adhikari, and Uttama Adhikari. The devotee should also know his own position and should not try to imitate a devotee situated on a higher platform. Srila Bhakti Vinoda Thakur has given some practical hints to the effect that an Uttama Adhikari Vaishnava can be recognized by his ability to convert many fallen souls to Vaishnavism. One should not become a spiritual master unless he has attained the platform of Uttama Adhikari. A neophyte Vaishnava or a Vaishnava situated on the intermediate platform can also accept disciples, but some disciples must be on the same platform, and it should be understood that they cannot advance very well toward the ultimate goal of life under his insufficient guidance. Therefore, a disciple should be careful to accept an Uttama Adhikari as a spiritual master. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji. So very, very important, right? Whom we accept as our spiritual master, right? So actually, how does one find out who is my spiritual master, right? So whoever inspires us in performing devotional service, right? Of course, the governing body commission is there, and there is a list of Diksha gurus, right? Whom we can take a shelter of, from whom we can take initiation from. It is already established by the governing body commission, right? It is not necessary that we have to take from one particular guru only, right? It is not about the guru. It is about how much faith we have in that particular guru, right? When we hear the guru's lectures, when we follow the guru's instructions, if you are more inspired to perform devotional service, then we take up that such a spiritual master who will guide us in the process of devotional service, right? Otherwise, it is not a matter of my guru is such a great person, right? So it is not about getting ourselves connected to some famous person who is a guru, and then that such a person not being inspired by such a person, then it becomes futile, right? What is the basic ingredient of a guru disciple relationship? The disciple should completely surrender to the spiritual master. The disciple should be 100% willing to follow the instructions of the spiritual master, and the spiritual master from his side should be part of the bona fide Guru Shishya Parampara, and he should be appointed by the authorities, right? In our case, it's a GBC established by Prabhupada. That such a person is entitled or is authorized to take disciples in the for ISKCON under the umbrella of International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So in this way, it is individual relationship between the spiritual master and the disciple, right? And one should not take up a particular guru just because a particular guru is famous, or such a particular guru has got many followers, or a particular guru has got, not on the basis of these external reasons, right? One should actually see how much one is inspired in one's heart to accept the instructions of the spiritual master and follow the instructions of the spiritual master. Because just by following the instructions of the spiritual master, we will be guided just like Arjuna was guided by Lord Sri Krishna, and he will also attain the same destination that Arjuna also attained, right? Going back home, back to Godhead. So with that, we come to the end of this verse of Nectar of Instruction. Tomorrow we'll start the next verse, and then we'll also we'll still continue with chapter 4 of Bhagavad Gita. So thank you all very much for joining in. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. So now devotees can ready themselves to give darshan now. We'll quickly do a 2 to 3 minutes Harinam Sankirtan and we'll end. It's 2 o'clock. Okay, 2 minutes we'll end. Om Vishnu Padhaya कृष्ण पृष्ठाया भूतले श्रीमते भाति वेदांत स्वामिनीति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादिशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गदाधर शिवसादि गौरा भक्तवृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय जय जय प्रभुपाद गुरुदेव जय जय गुरुदेव निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल। जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद श्रील गुरुदेव की जय। हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय। निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंत कोटि वैष्णवा वृंद की जय। All right, so we have our usual devotees who are very regular: Rohini Mataji, Maniwala Mataji, Karpagali Mataji, Sridhar Prabhu, Vijayalakshmi Priya Mataji, Sindhu Mataji, Ramya Mataji, Sudha Mataji, and all the devotees. Thank you all very much for joining in. Very grateful to all of you that we're able to study. Because of you all, we are able to study, proper systematic study of Bhagavad Gita every day for the pleasure of Guru and Gauranga. And we're doing it today, especially for the pleasure of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada, because it was his desire that this has to be written in the English language and distributed in English language, because of which at least I can talk for myself. I don't know ABC also of Sanskrit, E also, whatever it is, I don't know, right? It's simply by the causeless mercy of Prabhupada that we are simply following this, the word to word meanings, the transliteration of the words, like that. So it's a very 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 grateful to Srila Prabhupada and to the instruction that Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur gave to our Srila Prabhupada, because of which we are having all of these books ready with us. Whenever we want, we can refer to Srila Prabhupada's books and understand how to apply these principles in our life. So Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Gurudev ki jai, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur आविर्भाव महामहोत्सवा की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। दाई गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। थैंक यू वेरी मच। हरे कृष्णा।